The winter came early that year, howling winds burying the village of Black Hollow under endless snowdrifts. By mid-December, food stores ran low, and the once jovial spirit of the townsfolk turned grim. At the village council meeting, Elder Thorne stood, his weathered face pale as frost. "We must discuss the pact," he began, his voice steady despite the tension rippling through the room. Murmurs broke out, some angry, some fearful. "The pact was for emergencies," protested Miriam, clutching her shawl tightly. "And what is this, if not an emergency?" Elder Thorne countered. "The harvest failed. The game has fled. Without the pact, we die." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. The Pact of Black Hollow was a whispered legend, born during the last great famine generations ago. It was said that a blood offering could stave off starvation, but at what cost? "Do we vote then?" asked Jonah, his gaunt frame hunched in the corner. Thorne nodded solemnly. A rusted ceremonial urn was brought forth, and each villager cast their stone, white for life, black for death. When the urn was emptied, the verdict was clear. "The pact is invoked," Thorne declared, though his voice betrayed a quiver. 2 nights later, in the dead of a blizzard, the chosen family was summoned. The Carters, Jacob, his wife Sarah, and their young daughter Lily, stood trembling at the village square. "Why us?" Jacob demanded, his voice a mix of fury and desperation. "You swore the pact would never return." Elder Thorne avoided his gaze. "It's for the greater good." The words felt hollow. Lily clutched her mother, her wide eyes gleaming with terror. "Please," Sarah sobbed, "she's just a child." The villagers shuffled uneasily, but hunger gnawed away at their humanity. The Carters were led to the cellar beneath the old church, its stone walls damp and cold. Bound and gagged, they were left alone with their fate. Above, the villagers prepared a grim feast. A butcher's table was dragged into the square, knives sharpened with mechanical precision. The air was heavy with dread, mingling with the bitter scent of desperation. The first scream cut through the night like a blade. Jacob fought valiantly, but his strength was no match for the collective will of the starving. As his life ebbed, the villagers carved the flesh from his bones with clinical efficiency. Blood pooled on the snow, steaming in the freezing air. Sarah's turn came next. "You monsters!" She spat through her tears, thrashing against her bindings. Her cries were muffled as the ritual continued. The villagers worked in silence, their faces ghostly in the moonlight, their hands slick with gore. When they reached Lily, a hesitant murmur rippled through the crowd. She looked impossibly small on the butcher's table, her tear-streaked face frozen in silent horror. "She's too young," Jonah whispered, his knife trembling. But hunger had turned compassion to ash. "The pact spares no one," Thorne reminded them, though his voice cracked. As the feast began, the villagers sat in grim silence, the taste of human flesh foreign and bitter. But with each bite, their desperation waned, replaced by a terrible clarity. They had crossed a line from which there was no return. The next morning, the storm broke, and a hunting party found a herd of deer not far from the village. The irony was cruel. In the months that followed, Black Hollow was never the same. The villagers avoided one another's eyes, their shared guilt a festering wound. Strange occurrences plagued the town, shadowy figures flitting through the woods, disembodied whispers in the night. Some claimed to see the Carters' specters, their hollow eyes filled with sorrow and rage. And then, one by one, the villagers began to vanish. Elder Thorne was the last. One night, as he sat alone in his cabin, a chilling voice echoed from the shadows. "The pact was meant to protect, not to destroy," it hissed. He turned to see the Carter family, their spectral forms bathed in a ghastly light. "We are the price," they intoned in unison, their voices a haunting melody of despair. The next morning, the village was empty, the snow-covered streets eerily silent. Black Hollow became a ghost town, its dark legacy a cautionary tale for generations to come. Those who dared to visit spoke of faint cries on the wind and red stains that refused to fade from the church cellar. The pact had saved the village once, but at a cost far greater than anyone could have imagined. Months after the village of Black Hollow had faded into obscurity, travelers began to notice something strange. The land surrounding the ghost town seemed unnaturally fertile. Trees grew taller, their branches heavy with fruit. Game animals roamed freely, their coats sleek and healthy. Rumors spread that Black Hollow's soil could turn barren fields into lush paradise. Drawn by whispers of prosperity, a group of settlers arrived to claim the abandoned village. Among them was a young herbalist named Clara. As they rebuilt the town, Clara began to explore its dark history. In the church cellar, she discovered blood-stained carvings on the walls, ancient runes surrounding a crude depiction of a figure kneeling before a great beast. The air in the cellar was thick and oppressive, the silence almost alive. One night, Clara had a dream, or so she thought. In it, a gaunt, spectral figure approached her, its translucent skin stretched tightly over hollow bones. It was Sarah Carter. "You must leave," the ghost whispered, its voice barely audible over the howling wind. "The pact is not broken. It cannot be broken." Clara awoke drenched in sweat, the taste of iron lingering on her tongue. Days later, Clara noticed a disturbing trend. Animals in the forest began to vanish. First, the deer, then the birds, until even the insects disappeared. One morning, she found a pile of bones near the edge of the village, fresh, gnawed clean, and arranged in a perfect circle. She brought her findings to the settlers, but they dismissed her as paranoid. The night of the harvest festival, a chilling fog rolled into Black Hollow. As the villagers gathered in the square, the church bell tolled on its own, each peal louder than the last. Clara felt a deep rumble beneath her feet, as if something ancient was stirring. Then the earth split open. From the fissure emerged a grotesque creature, its body a shifting mass of flesh and bone pulsating with unnatural life. It bore no face, only mouths, hundreds of them gnashing and moaning. "The debt must be paid," it growled, its voice a cacophony of human and inhuman sounds. The settlers scattered in terror, but Clara stood frozen. In the creature's shifting form, she saw familiar faces: Jacob, Sarah, and Lily Carter. Their hollow eyes stared back at her, their mouths opening in silent screams. The creature lunged, consuming one villager after another. Clara fled to the cellar, where she frantically tried to decipher the runes on the walls. She realized too late that the pact had not been a simple sacrifice. It was a binding contract. The villagers of Black Hollow had promised not just their lives, but their very souls. And now, the debt was due. As the creature descended into the cellar, its many voices harmonizing into a dreadful wail, Clara picked up a blade from the altar. The last thing she saw before the darkness consumed her was the face of a child staring back from the creature's mass. Lily, her lips moving to form the words, "It's your turn now." Black Hollow vanished from maps soon after. The land, once lush, became barren, and those who ventured too close swore they could hear whispers on the wind. The pact is eternal.